From Alameda, California, the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network presents Flying High Over the Zone with the Zigzag Man.
I am back, and you are flying high with me, the Zigzag Man, over the zone in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, and sunny day, cold but sunny. Doesn't matter. I'm a happy guy. I got a great guest. Mickey Joseph returning to the airways. How you doing, comedian, Renaissance man, actor, dancer?
I'm not doing too much dancing right now, but I'm feeling pretty good, man. I twisted my knee a little bit, dicking around on stage, you know.
You are a comedian that is, you don't just stand there with a microphone. You do move around, and that's part of it. Were you always that way? Did you act?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I was always using that physical element. You know, I was doing street mime before I became a stand-up, Ralph. So, you know, I incorporated some of that and learned how to make people laugh without saying anything. You know, so that was kind of an advantage I had when I was coming in. I always felt.
Were you back in the days of Shields and Yarnell, or are you younger than that?
They were a little bit before my time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm younger than that. I never saw them. However, I do own the tape, and it's great. I have a tape on Shields and Yarnell, a documentary about them in the city at Union Square.
They were probably the first street performers that had any notoriety whatsoever, and it brought a lot to the city. I remember that documentary, and you know, all humor is valid. I don't remember who said that, but it doesn't have it. So wherever it comes from, whatever makes people laugh, you as an entertainer were always able to find a common denominator without being having to be dirty. You wouldn't mind saying a dirty word or two, but that's how you built your act. You found out what people wanted to, what people laughed at.
Absolutely, man. And not only that,
you'd be surprised what a minority you are amongst comics, amongst we comics. Very hard for most comics to find that identity with the audience where they just like you. That's so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
I wanna bring a little note of somberness into this, and our mutual friend Fred Reese has really been struggling. Yet, when I say somberness, yet he finished his last chemo, and he's made it through some things that you and I'll speak for myself, I couldn't respond the way he did. I couldn't fight the fight.
I know, man.
He's fought. And
he's an amazing example of how to approach this illness, you know, and it's sad, man. He's a good buddy of mine, and I was with him at Comedy Day this year, and just really proud of him at the same time that he's, I don't know if you read his book. He wrote a book about his second bout with cancer, and man, what a tearjerker, I'm telling you. Not easy to read, Ralph. And now he's back at it again. And I went and saw him in the hospital shortly after his surgery on his esophagus. And even then, you know, coming right out of it, he's still doing it, you know.
Yeah, and they've done some major reconstruction of his stomach, his esophagus, and stretched the tubes and this and that, and feet.
Right.
He's just an absolute fighter, and deserves more than the handles.
And a really funny cat too. And
no question about that. He has.
Yeah, every word in his set is, it's there for a reason, man. He's a very good joke writer. I love the guy, man. I saw him just recently at Roosters. We worked together there, just on a Wednesday showcase night. But there we were. Nice.
Yeah. And again, it comes in increments. He's coming back slowly but surely, and he's this on top of it in his writing.
Yeah.
With all he's going through. Imagine when he's pain-free and he's not thinking every moment, is this going to be my last day, and this, that, and the other thing. He's destined for some really great things as the result of this, because, he's one strong son of a bitch. And if you don't know him, the funniest thing he ever said, he said it on my, I had him as a guest on one of my shows, and he said, I'm from New Jersey, so my middle finger gets corporal, I don't even know what the word, corporal tendon or whatever it is. I screwed that up. What's the word?
I don't know.
Tunnel syndrome, right.
Corporal
that was Tally in the background, my studio engineer, helping me out.
Nice.
He's a funny guy, and so collectively from you and I, let's wish him the best. And that's all we can say.
Yeah,
on
good
to
buddy.
you. You've come back. You're back in Northern California. You were down in Vegas for years. You had a wonderful group of folks, the Rat Pack.
Right.
A
nice run.
A nice 13 years?
Oh, no, it was 1,753 shows. The first 2 years I was part-time, and then pretty much full-time for the next 6 years. So it was about 8 or 9 years altogether.
Wow.
Performing in Philly. But I miss those guys a lot.
What was the most fun you had doing it? Did you get to meet Joey? I'm sure I might have asked
No,
that.
I never did. He died after I was in it for about 3 years, and I had asked Sandy Hackett, I said I'd like to drive down and say hello to Joey, and Sandy discouraged me. He said he's really kind of losing it, and he wouldn't know who you are, and he wouldn't appreciate a visitor and all this stuff, so it never happened. But
too bad. I might have told you, Mickey, that I met Joey Bishop when I was in the Air Force at Travis Air Force Base, and I was hanging around the what they call, I don't even remember what they called it, the terminal, the base terminal. People were waiting for planes, and I'd go down there and just hang out, servicemen. I'm walking around one day, and there is walking up to me Joey Bishop. Joey freaking Bishop. And this is back in 68, the year before I got out. And I go, son of a gun. That's what son of a gun. What do you do? He goes, don't talk to me. I'm very nervous. On a AOL trip or one of these trips where they go servicemen. He was on his way to
entertain
Guam.
The troops.
Entertain the troops. It was his first time flying that way, first time there, or whatever. Right. He was very, very nervous. And I said, good luck to you. Son of a... He was big time. Joey Bishop had a late-night show opposite Johnny Carson. His
3 years.
Sidekick, how many years?
For 3 years.
3 years, okay. His sidekick
and not only that, but also was the one guy that filled in for Johnny Carson more than anybody else in the history of that show. So not only did he compete with Johnny, but also he was the #1 guest host, more times than anybody.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Some great talents came out of that show in terms of hosting.
Right.
Joan Rivers got started.
Yes.
She would have been my guess for the most times replacing him as a guest host. But I didn't realize it before he went off on his own. And I never read anything about animosity between he and Carson when he left.
I didn't read anything in the book there's a book called Mouse in the Rat Pack, and it is Joey's biography. And
Really?
I don't recall ever hearing any animosity towards Johnny Carson or the two of them back and forth, but the book paints a picture of Joey as being kind of a difficult man, who couldn't accept the level of success that he was having. He always thought things should be better.
Really? Well.
Yeah. There's a story in there about how they.
That's very surprising because, given his, given everything, I think he did quite well. I think his level of success was right up there.
I would tend to agree with that. But he apparently didn't feel that way. He was in direct competition with the Dick Van Dyke Show when he had his sitcom. In fact, Joey used to take his cast into the rehearsal hall when Dick Van Dyke and his cast were working, and they would watch them rehearse, and then he would scream and yell at them, saying, "Why can't we do it like them?" So it's interesting. It's an interesting book. Really read it.
That show that you referred to, the Dick Van Dyke Show, with all those guys, Carl Reiner and
Mary Tyler Moore, Maury Amsterdam.
That was such a classic, an unbelievable.
And can you imagine competing with that? You're up against them, and Dick Van Dyke was a genius. Physical comedy.
And I remember the themes of Joey, but I don't remember much about the show itself. Is that can that be available on YouTube? Can you catch some of that? Or?
Yeah, you can catch that on the Billy Bishop Show on YouTube, I think. And Marlo Thomas played his daughter.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That girl.
Yeah, she was one of the people that were interviewed when the guy wrote this book about Joey. So, like I said, it's a great book. I think it's the only book written about Joey Bishop, and if you care to read it, it's called Mouse in the Rat Pack.
Beautiful. Now,
I really enjoyed it. I read it several times.
I'm sure. Yeah, you trying to get into him, I'll bet. You did read it, and and devoured as much information about his life as you possibly can. When you found out that he was difficult, did it change your demeanor in any way on stage? Did you try to pick up an edge, or?
Not really, but when I needed to stand up to the actor that was playing Frank, I stood up to him. It wasn't like I was cowering. I don't know if Joey how he really played it with the Rat Pack. I think he kept his head up pretty much. He wasn't like Sammy was, getting pushed around and stuff like that.
Now, all you guys had to learn as much about your character, obviously, as you can. That's a given. Is there anything you learned from each other, or you learned particularly about any of those people's real lives, or like anything about Frank that maybe the average guy doesn't know about? Anything about Dean?
I came up with something very specific, and Frank and I feel the same way about this. Frank was a bath man. He preferred getting in a tub than taking a shower.
Really?
And I agree with that.
That's kind of fun.
I read everything I could get my hands on about these guys. I really did. The other actors I was working with, not so much. They were more too concerned with their history rather than getting on stage and singing like they did.
Oh, okay, so
But
you read about all of these guys.
I sure did.
Oh, not just. So let's talk Dean and Jerry. I watched some YouTube of them recently. I watched, I take things in spurts. I'll watch them. Whatever I watch, I'll just watch for 2 or 3 weeks and get as much as I can. So I watched them perform on countless YouTubes, countless performances, countless things. They were so underrated when we look back and think, oh my God, were they good? Oh, were they? I can't tell you who was funnier, Jerry or Dean.
They were great.
They were just incredibly great together. Anything about their relationship? Obviously, it went south, and they reunited.
Yeah.
That Frank telethon, and watched that 50 or 80 times over the course of my life. But
there's another book. There's another book written by Jerry Lewis. Came out about 5 years ago called Dean and Me. Very insightful book about their relationship, the way everything works. And, it just got to the point where I think Jerry was becoming more interested in directing and making his own films, which is only natural, because they made a shitload of movies, Dean and Jerry did, and I'm sure Jerry had his eyes wide open. And in fact, I think that Jerry invented instant replay, which would be, video for us. But he figured out a way back when he was directing films, where he could look at the tape.
You're fading a little on this end. Could you talk into the phone a little bit?
Yes, he found a way where. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, he found a way where he could look at a scene immediately after shooting it, rather than having it sent in, to be developed, and then look at it in the dailies at the end of the day. That was Jerry's invention.
He played a great dramatic role in King of Comedy as well. I thought that was as good as anything I'd seen at the time. Very well done. A genius. Dean was an incredible image, I know his life was destroyed when his son was killed. I know.
Correct.
It took everything out of him.
Yes.
And having a son myself, I could well appreciate, if God forbid something would happen, how I would be. So that was terrible. Anything about Dean that you might have picked up on over the years?
I'll tell you, Dean. They say that Dean never made a phone call. You called him. He never needed to look for work. He would never pick up the phone and say, I want to do this, I want to do that. People would call him. He played golf every day at 6 a.m. When it came time to renegotiate his contract for the 1 hour variety show that he was doing on television, he asked for he was tired of doing it, so he asked for an outrageous amount of money per episode, and they gave it to him.
So he had to do it.
And in that new contract was a 1 day. I think he worked 1 day or maybe a day and a half, and that was it.
Wow.
And you saw the show. They'd have them. The girls would be guiding around.
Come out, read from the car, smile at the girls, play with the girls on the pole for a while. It's just,
but he had this.
It's thoroughly charming. You can't take. You say, well, it's a man crush. You can't take your eyes off that guy when he's on stage. When he's on stage with Frank, I see them doing their little bits. You gravitate towards Dean.
Yeah.
You may listen to Frank.
Right. But imagine Dean Martin being with Jerry Lewis all those years. What he learned first of all, about show business, and secondly, about comedy. I mean, these guys wrote the book together, really. They were the greatest comedy team ever, and he took all that experience to the Rat Pack. And, I think Frank wanted to be Dean more than Dean wanted to ever be Frank.
that's very well said. Wow.
Yeah. I think that's the truth.
Now, you can't just say, oh, nice statement, and go on. That's something one has to digest and think about for a long time.
Well, Dean was pretty cool, man, you know?
Yeah.
He was pretty cool. And he didn't have the pressure that Frank had. You know, Frank was running the record company and a movie production company. I mean, Frank had 1,000 irons in the fire everywhere and helped a lot of people, too. You know, he was helped Kennedy get elected. I mean, Frank really had the world on his shoulders, but Dean did not. There's no way.
Yeah. I would say of the two of them, Dean must have been the most incredibly humane guy compared to Frank.
Yeah, I would agree.
Just in the way they lived their lives. His drinking was obviously overrated or overstated.
Yeah, that's what they say. You know, you can't get up if you tie one on until 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no way you're going to be up playing golf at 6. So
when you said that, that's what put in my head. He's up at 6 a.m. to play golf. No, you wouldn't. If you were a drunk, you would not.
Right.
You wouldn't even want to get up. You'd get up 6 the next evening. Start it all over again. But
he didn't party all night with Frank and Sammy like that. No.
Got to close.
Neither did Joey,
probably as talented as any of them. If you think about it, Sammy was an incredibly talented guy. Anything that I know, he was a partier. New age partier. Those guys were drinkers. I think Sammy got into coke more.
Probably.
Yeah.
Speaking of into coke, what about Trump, man? That guy's way out on the coke, I think. I don't know.
Oh, wow. I don't know if it's coke or speed or
got to be something. I mean,
he had the Noriega thing going. Remember when Bush would come to the White House? He'd come to the White House and Bush would go, and Noriega would go, and he'd go back. They go at each other. They wouldn't talk. They just sniffed at each other. The original book. Well, Trump has that thing going too in the debates. You go. So imagine
sniffing.
Excuse me.
Yeah, he's sniffing during the debates, and then he's up at 3. What 70-year-old man is up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Come on, man.
At this 70-year-old man.
There you go. We were there in the 80s. I know. I can look at a guy and tell he just did a bump. I mean, seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
It wasn't my thing, but it's sure fun once in a while, and it's sure fun to see other people enjoying themselves. That was a good thing. My thing was always weed. It's not a good drug if you're going to be a performer. Weed is not. I will say that unequivocally.
No drug is good for that, really.
No, that's very true. That's true.
Nice
if you could take things nice and straight and not have to change your consciousness. But if you do, kids, try my weed.
Right, exactly.
Anyway,
that's the joke I wrote. That's the joke I wrote about Trump. Was, you know, there's no way I could vote for a coke freak. But if you want to lay out a couple of lines, I'll talk about it. You know.
Well, me, I'm a philosopher. What do you got? I'm a tester. I'm a drug tester. They're going to put my lungs on a petri dish someday, so I can qualify as a tester. All right, Mickey. I love chatting with you. You'll come back soon, I hope. But before you go, you got to tell me about the improv you got coming up.
I'm doing the improv on Thursday, the 22nd, with Kabir Singh. Kabir won the comedy competition a couple of years ago. He's really funny, Hindu comic. I love the guy. Really been good to me with this comeback I'm making and giving me a huge shot here. And I have a guest list. If anybody wants to come, contact me, Mickey Joseph, and we'll get you in. It's going to be a great show, great evening. And then
you're
also
on Facebook. Do you have a website that you want to tell us about, or just Facebook?
You get me on. I'm on Facebook, Mickey Joseph on Facebook, and then I have an email address if you want me to give that.
Please.
It's MickeyJoe15 at AOL. It's MickeyJo15 at AOL.com.
Thank you, sir.
New Year's Eve. I got a New Year's Eve in Castro Valley at the Performing Arts Center with Brian Copeland from KGO Radio, good old friend of mine. Robert Duchesne, Irene Tu, a bunch of really hip, good comics. Joe Klosick is going to be there. We got a great show on New Year's Eve out in Castro Valley. Starts at 7 p.m. So I'll be home in time to kiss my dog at midnight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mickey, I'm very appreciative of you coming back and back. And
okay, buddy.
Let's keep in touch. And I wish you the best, because you're a well-deserving guy. Anybody out there who hasn't heard Mickey Joseph, you are the most successful middle act in San Francisco's history.
Thank you, brother.
You're content to be a middle. You should have been a headliner years ago. But you're just content to be a middle. Everybody loves you. Everybody wants you back. And so do I. So we'll see you soon.
Okay, brother. I hope to see you in person soon. Maybe we can have lunch. Okay, Ralph?
Absolutely. Let's do that. And I'm going to end the show the way I do every one of my shows. I'm going to say to my audience and you, Mickey, keep your humor dry, keep your dreams wet, keep your kids out of military recruiting stations, your kids too, and keep them both off the laps of clerics that wear dresses. And everything will be fine, and keep on keeping on. Catch you next week. Bye,
right on,
everybody.
Buddy.
Bye, Mick.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye, Ralph.
I'm back. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Flying high over the zone with the Zigzag Man. I am Ralph Tyko. In Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco. We're a little island off Oakland, but a significant one. And not only am I blessed to be here, but I'm blessed to have a guest who has a podcast show on my network, Comfortably Zone Radio Network. He has a wonderful wrestling podcast. And he's an old friend from way back, the Holy City Zoo days, Fred L. Lazarus.
Ralph, thanks. I always love your introductions, man. You make me feel younger and old at the same time, which I adore.
Well,
I always liked you, Ralph. You know that.
Being old is a blessing, by the way.
That's why I said young and old at the same time. Yeah, we do go back. We were I was talking to Steve Kerr about you the other day, and, you know, it's been damn near 24 years, going on a quarter of a century since our zoo days, since we met each other.
Wow. Long time ago. How's Steve doing? He's a guest on this show every now and again, and we have a good time. He's a bright, intelligent, he's a progressive. And
yes, very much so. I've always told him over the years he should have his own show. He should do his own podcast, join your network. And he's doing great, first of all. And I guess it's just not his avenue to walk down. You know, he'd rather be a guest.
Whenever he's on, it's cathartic for him, as it is the podcast for most podcasters. That's part of it, is you get to say what you get to say, and you get to say it in a venue where nobody screens you, nobody censors you, you're not indebted to anybody. It's a wonderful venue, and not only that, we put our shows on YouTube for posterity, so that every show that we do, we're on iTunes. And it hasn't even been a year. It'll be a year in February since I decided that, you know what, I have enough friends that do this, and I have enough people that I can bless with the opportunity to do a show. And I wish in my youth I had something like this going. And I've put together like 10 shows of some of the most passionate, informed human beings, interesting people.
Yes, you have.
Talk to interesting people. I'm thrilled with the way it's gone. And you are a charter member, and your show...
I appreciate that, and I have to apologize. I may have been a charter member, but lately I haven't been following the charter. I've been kind of lazy the last 2 months, but that's going to stop.
Oh.
I have some shows coming up, and I want to apologize to you for that. But life goes on.
Apologize. You
Go
get
ahead.
a lot out of doing it. Now, I know your time is limited, and I also know that sometimes you just run out of gas.
You know what? The last 2 months, my tank has been empty, man. I go to work, I come home, deal with stressful crap, and I have to admit I've been binge watching TV way too much now that I'm done with Deadwood and Game of Thrones, which I highly recommend to anybody out there. I'm done binge watching, so that's, But you said something that caught my ear that is so true, Ralph. Too bad we didn't have podcasting back then when we were young, but you did, stand-up comedy is podcasting in a way, and you were doing stand-up long before I came around. So actually, I really think you should think about that. And I think stand-up is a form of podcasting, but podcasting is much longer set. There's no audience, but you're free to say whatever you want. At least at the Zoo you were. You
were. And it's you could do it in your pajamas. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, I depended. When your name was on the bill, you, Lincoln Earl, Carey, Jacobson, to name a few. I was always comfortable. I was like, hey, these guys I don't have to worry about. I could just not even pay attention except to the clock. Yeah,
for those of you out there that don't know what we're talking about, hey, I don't know what we're talking about.
We're talking about the Zoo and how easy it was.
Yeah, I know.
For us back then.
People. Fred was the manager of, and did some stand-up too, at a club in San Francisco back in the 80s that was, I would say, one of the key clubs in a city that was one of the key cities in comedy. A lot of people came out of San Francisco. It was a big, big market, and the club was the Holy City Zoo. It featured, among others, Robin Williams played there. It played there a lot. That was his home base.
Yes, it was for quite a while. And I showed up right when he totally left San Francisco for good, performing-wise, when he got famous. Right. When I showed up. And when I showed up,
I got to open for him once or twice. And what a thrill.
I bet.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
There are stories
but
about
the funniest, we talked about the funniest guy that I ever saw do comedy, and you mentioned Warren Thomas, the funniest guy you ever saw do comedy.
Yes, without a doubt, bar none. Who was yours?
Mine was Meany, Kevin Meany.
Oh, bless his soul. We just lost him.
I will walk around the house and go, we're not that kind of people. Where's your keys? You're not the key-losing kind of guy. That's not us.
Such a sweetheart. Just like yourself, a sweet person.
And funny as fuck. I mean, just pure
all
out.
the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Perfect timing to come up with. It's just a parody on growing up, and he made. See, we all have that common denominator. The audience and the comedians all have that, and he reached like Cosby used to do.
Right, when Cosby would sit in the chair and talk about growing up and stuff. Yeah, Meanie was definitely like that. And
he was like that, and we all have that common denominator that the good comedians can work to, the really good ones. Carlin was like that. He'd find out with all of us that we all could have our buttons pushed in the same way.
Oh, God, Carlin was amazing. And Meanie's takeoff on We Are the World would stop me. Even if he only did half the song or a third of the song. Amazing. Just it killed. It was one of those rare bits that killed every single time. Wherever he did it, whether it was on TV, at the zoo, the punchline, a corporate gig, it would kill, literally. And he
But when I
think
of him, I think of him as a kind soul. I don't think of him with his, I mean, he was funny as can be, but he was a good human being first.
And a great father second. Great father. Felt so bad for his daughter. It's just this year, Ralph, has just been horrible for death. This is the worst.
And then
in my
you
whole
go
life.
back, either it got by me or what, but Glenn Fry died. In January, and I didn't even. I posted something about that it got by me. How the hell it did?
Well, today I think
among all the others, David Bowie and Mose.
Well, we lost another one today.
Mose was
another one died. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Lake of Emerson, Lake and Palmer died today. John Glenn died today. Yeah, John Glenn died today. Well, he was 94.
Yeah, John Glenn died, but he did very little music and comedy.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, it's just nonstop. Prince, Bowie. It's just I've never seen such celebrity and musicians, comics drop like flies. You know.
Hey, you gotta say,
good ones are dying and the bastards are staying alive.
My son's mom, Diane Satin, died in early January this year.
God, I'm sorry. You never said that before to me. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. She was sick.
And then another woman from Comedy Day passed just 2 days ago. Also, I forgot her name. It was in Facebook. I've never met her, but she was behind the scenes. A writer.
Hear that.
It was on Facebook on that page.
We all have a kind of a link. Anybody who's been on stage or been with it and all that stuff. So, mortality's a motherfucker. How's that?
It is, especially this year. Jesus Christ, 2016 will go down with the worst year. I mean, wait till the Oscars come out and you see that one scene that all the celebrities who have died. It's going to be the longest one they've ever had. You know, and
the most recognizable names. I don't know if it's because the baby boomers are getting older or that, but not going to top this year, next year.
No way.
For me,
there's not too many famous people
Mose
left.
Allison,
I mean,
Leon Russell, Mose Allison, and Leonard Cohen die within a week after the election.
Yeah,
they all.
We don't want to see that orange bastard. We don't want any part of him.
I mean, we've been through a lot. We've been singing the blues for a long time. Those blues had to come from somewhere. But oh man, we can't sing the blues about this. This is too much.
This is scary.
We were good at it, but
scary times, my friend.
Goes.
Thank God we're in California. Thank God we're in California. That's all.
Well,
thank God you're in Alameda. You're more safe than me.
I don't know if you've. I just did a show on Alameda politics. I posted a show on Alameda politics today with the housing the way it is. There was a big thing on the ballot, a referendum to get some rent control in Alameda, so the Cretan landlords can stop screwing people and forcing them out of their homes, forcing them to move. It's horrible. And
all in all, it's just been a horrible year. That horrible fire in Oakland last week is now causing warehouse living places.
That didn't have a lot to do, but it was many reasons for the fire. But one of the causes of death was the housing shortage. And people living in that run-down, decrepit place that was apt to go up, not because they liked it so much. They just couldn't afford rents elsewhere.
Right. The guy was charging like $300 a month, $400 a month, but why didn't he put a stairway in?
What you'd pay for a share rental if things were the way they were, the way they should be. I paid $100 a week when I lived in San Francisco and shared a flat, and that was the way of things. But now, for the same price, the same flat is like $2,000. The same share
I totally
bedroom.
get that. I mean, I'm blessed by rent control, thank God, but I started to think what would happen if I lost this place.
Yeah.
You know?
Think about, I didn't live in a motor van and camper vans and RVs all those years for nothing. I did it
I hear you.
just not to pay top flight California rent and not have to work at the same time. And there's always been an undercurrent of folks living like I live on the edge and what have you.
Oh, I live on the edge too. It's not just
freedom of time. But people are doing it involuntarily now. And we have something in this country called the working poor. Where,
me.
where you work 40 hours, and probably not in your case because you have rent control. A lot of the working poor is brought on by exorbitant prices that people are paying for rent. Landlords that gouge the rents every time somebody moves out. They double the rent, this, that, and the other thing, and they don't put the profits back into the place. They don't keep up with the places.
No, they don't.
It's horrible.
It's very rare that you have a landlord like that. Or what they'll do when somebody dies or moves out, they'll use the excuse, well, we're going to refurbish the place. Yeah, they refurbish it and jack up the rent 3 times, you know?
Right.
And how many businesses?
They don't even have to have them die or move out. They could just tell them that, you know.
Right. You know, and how many long-time businesses, you know, that we know of in the city or the Bay Area that are now gone just because of rent increases. Every week something closes, you know. I mean, you go up and down Clement Street, there's not too many places that were there when we were at the zoo. Not too many.
No,
you know?
Not at all. There's the Blue Danube.
And there's the dessert place on the corner. You know, I forgot the name of that place. Yeah, that's still there.
Yes.
And Giorgio's Pizza, which is one of the best in town.
Oh, Giorgio's is good. And then there's another one that's on the corner of Anza and Clement. It's a pizza store, pizza parlor, and I can't think of the name of it, but that is really good. So within 2 blocks, you have 2 of the best pizzas in
we're lucky.
San Francisco.
We're real lucky that way. So are you going to go back on stage soon, or are you retired from that
I
show?
think there's one leaving in 10 minutes.
I think
by being on stage, those days are gone. I think I've found my...
I always ask you that, man. I always ask you that.
Yeah.
But
you're the one person that wants to see that happen. And,
I'd love to.
Well, you know, every now and again I will do it hasn't been for a couple of years, but I'll go out and do an open mic or what have you. And, But
well, for me, you know, I went and saw my first comedy show in a while. You know, I went and saw Will Durst, who I love seeing. I saw him at the Marsh, and I was like, God, I miss being in front of people for 2 minutes. You know, because that's all my sets were 2 minutes that I enjoyed. The rest of the 3 minutes were horrible. But it was like, okay, well, that came and went. That wanting to go back on stage for 2 minutes, Ralph, came and went. So I understand how you feel, you know.
Because of the last 3 minutes. So
because of the last 3 minutes of my sets always sucked. I'd forget the punchlines, and, you know, Steve would be making faces at me from the back of the club, or, when I was with Scrappy, I don't know if you ever saw our show, Fred and Scrappy's All-Star Review.
Oh, I remember.
We did like 3 shows at the zoo. That was,
you know, who I think about
him
all the time, and he's a Facebook friend who is so good to me, is Marty Maceda. Marty is
I talk to him regularly. Marty is Aces, man. Marty is, it's just, you see Marty at Comedy Day or whenever, and it's like you just saw him yesterday. He's just one of those great guys. Just great.
I still remember him at the 540 Club after a set, or sometimes before a set, just having as much fun as anybody in the place.
Oh, damn, those were the days.
Yeah, that's how Marty. And that's how when I think of Marty Maceda, I think of a man who just simply has fun in life. He just is a whimsical. A whimsical.
You got to mention another person. You got to mention, his little sidekick Benjamin. And then Lance. Those 3 just were 3 guys. 2 of them are still here. God bless Benjamin. Those 3 guys just love to have fun. Just love to have fun. It's contagious. And
they all had the same look in their eye. That look of like, what can I do to disturb some shit?
Yeah, that's what I loved about all of them. All 3 of them, especially Benjamin. I mean, you were closer to Ben than I was. But what little bit of time I spent with Ben, it was like, geez, I just love watching him be himself. It's the best compliment I could give Ben. I loved watching Ben be Ben.
I loved just to hang with him outside. He'd be smoking a cigarette, and I'd pass him a J every now and again.
And then when a woman would walk by with huge boobs, he'd go, "Look at those boobs move up and down," and then the woman would turn around and look, and Benjamin would point to me. Freddie said it, but his voice was so distinctive, she knew who said it. But
absolutely. Here's his way. It must be jelly, 'cause jam don't shake that way.
God, I miss him. I miss that little shit, man. He was, there were times when of course, you work, how many open mics I worked, and you come to work and you just dread it. We all have a job like that sometimes. We just don't want to go to work, but we have to. And I'd show up, and Ben knew when I was not in a good mood, and he'd cheer me up. Not all the time, mind you, but more often than not. Hey, Fred, how you doing? And just him taking time out to ask me and mean it. He didn't want a free soda or beer or anything. He actually was asking how I was doing,
Right, and to get there, I'd always think, well, for me to get there, you get in the car, you find a parking spot, you walk out of the guy, you walk down the street. For Ben to just arrive was a major, you know what I'm saying? He's a little guy. For those of you who may be hearing this and not know of Ben Stewart, who was a dwarf, and he had a bone disease, and when he was a little kid, and he just didn't grow.
Right,
normally.
And if he fell, he'd break a bone.
Right, and he's sat in a wheelchair, poor guy, and he was courageous. But with that, he'd come on stage, and you'd forget the wheelchair in 2 minutes.
After about 2 minutes, that's right.
He drove around, he drove the wheelchair around into the microphone stand. Fuck you, mother's a drunk driver. I don't care about you.
Well, listen, I got a little side note about Ben. I work for the Giants. I'll tie it all together. And I was up for New Employee of the Year. And I show up at the awards ceremony, and I'm like, I'm going to get it, $750 and my name and picture on the scoreboard, right, at the work party. And they gave it, I came in second, and I lost out to a gentleman who has the same disease as Ben. He was a dwarf, same exact, total copy, but this man's black. And all his job was to stand in front of the elevators and give directions to people. That's all he did, because that's all he could do. And they gave that award to him, and right away I was like, it's Ben. God bless this guy. I shook his hand and gave him a little hug, and at first I think he thought I was upset, but the way I greeted him on the stage and shook his hand and everything, it reminded me so much of Ben saying, "Fuck you, Freddie," you know. I mean, I'm a jack of all trades at work, you know, at the Giants. You know, I do everything from desk services, security, vending, everything, usher, ticket stamping, and here this guy beats me out, and all she does is give directions. I loved it. I went home that night, and I almost, you know, I was crying almost, you know, driving my truck home that night. I'm going, it's Ben, you know. How can you fault this guy, you know? Yeah. And he was
from
built
heaven.
the same
Probably,
way as
a young guy, no doubt.
Very young. He's 20. So, you know, he probably only has 10 years left. And he's such a good guy. You know, he's just like Ben. He's out there every day. He flirts. He jokes, high fives guys. You know, I mean, his little arm can only go up so high, but that had a little joke there. But, yeah, it was like, you know, I was telling Steve, you know, I lost out Employee of the Year to a Benjamin Stewart wannabe, you know. But God bless him, man. That was cool, you know. I mean, when you have all those cards against you in life and you make it work, that's amazing. And that's what Ben did.
You have a good spirit that you could recognize that, Fred.
I appreciate that, you know.
This is a world of greed. There are people that would have pushed that little guy off the balcony for $750.
You know, at first, when they gave him the award, I said to myself, I go, oh, motherfucker, but he's Ben. You know, the guy needs the money more than me.
Well, you're human too. You had a moment where you had to think about it.
Yeah, of course I did. You know. Well,
cool.
Speaking of bad moments, maybe we should segue into something else other than my life.
Go ahead. You take it, my friend, because you have to remember that I was the guy that warned you to avoid the whole situation before you.
Yes, you know, you did, Ralph, but the one good thing that came out of that whole situation at FCC Radio, it brought us back together as friends. It taught me podcasting, and it brought me a couple good friends, one really good friend, but that's where it begins and ends, because
you had some bad experiences with the general manager.
Yes, I did, and for legal purposes, let's just call him J. Napoleon. You like that one, huh?
That's very good. A little fellow who just was inordinately talented, technically. He's
very much so
a genius when it comes to sound and putting together a studio. He has extensive experience in pirate radio and, producing. I think he produced Alex Bennett for a while. But as a human being, and as a human being and as a communicator with people, he just falls short in a lot of ways. And you and I...
You're being too nice. The guy's a little bastard. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let me be the bad guy here.
I'm the one who told you that before you ever went to work for him, so I concur. I'm just saying I concur. And you didn't go to work for him.
You know, a good friend of mine warned me not to go that far, take that long walk off a short pier that much, but I'm willing to get my feet wet real quick here. He hasn't changed. I mean... he got kicked out of Comedy Day.
The only reason I'm even addressing talking about this is because always he has a way of pissing one off more than any other human being can piss one off. I haven't seen him in 2 years, but you told me a story of he pissed off a fellow by the name of Bruno Brubaker. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes. What he pulled on Bruno,
his brother Bruno had been with him as a podcaster for a long time. He's
from the beginning, from basically the beginning, maybe give or take 2 or 3 months. But I ran into Bruno the other day on Grocery Outlet on Gary Street, and we talked for a while. And I said, I noticed you're not at J. Napoleon's anymore. And he goes, yeah, I quit, and this is what he did. And, they changed studios. And this is the truth. Bruno has no reason to lie. The man, I've known of him for over 40 years in the Sunset District growing up here. He knows all the old Sunset guys, from the O'Boyles to the Meehan's, Michael Meehan and the family, Tom O'Boyle and all the O'Boyles. He knows everybody, just like I do. And I've never known this man to lie, Ralph. Never. I mean, ever.
No, he wouldn't.
It's not in him. He's just, not a liar. So I believe every word he said. And with that being said, remember now, Bruno is 72 years old now, and he makes both of us look like Hulk Hogan. He's probably 100 pounds dripping wet. So again, with that being said, FCC moved from where you used to do podcasts there, and myself there, to a new studio. Well, the studio is underground, evidently, 2 floors down, and you need an elevator to get to it, or you could use stairs. But if you're Bruno, remember how Bruno's podcast, he'd bring, 12
cassettes. He'd bring, not his cassettes, his CDs. He'd bring
his CDs and his 45s and his albums. Yeah, and he never knew what he was going to play, so he'd bring 5.
He didn't know what he was going to play. Right. He just did it by the spirit that moved him. And
which was great, which is why I love it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, here's the story. You're not going to believe this. I couldn't believe it. It got me so hot, I wanted to go look up Napoleon and, see if his hand's under his shirt, like Napoleon was. Anyway, long story short, I go, Bruno, how come you're not there? He goes, I quit. And I'm like, you quit? And he goes, yeah, the bastard would not give me a key because the elevator turned off and you had to have a key at 6 p.m. and his show was from 4 to 6 p.m. So after 2 or 3 shows of dragging my stuff up and down the stairs, I'm 72 years old, I can't do it. I begged him for a key. I asked him for a key. He told me no. He would not give me a key. And so one thing led to another, and Miller got mad at him and physically threatened him. Literally, I'm going to kick your ass if you keep this conversation going, is what Bruno said. And so Bruno said, I'll get a lawyer on you. I'm 72 years old, And so the moral of the story is Bruno left. Jay Napoleon told all the other DJs, hey, where's Bruno? What's going on? You ready for this? The little bastard told everybody straight up, Bruno didn't pay, so I fired him. Not only is he a bully, he's a liar, and I couldn't believe it. Bruno, of all people, said, come on, you're going to cut down the Pope and threaten the Pope with violence? I mean, it basically, well, maybe not a good analogy, but you get where I'm going. And it's like,
right.
God, that's what happened. That's the type of man Jay Napoleon is. Or let me just say it, that's the type of man John Miller is.
Okay.
Could not
that's
believe it.
That's a sad story that...
Well, let me tell you about Comedy Day, and then I'll stop. The truth about Comedy Day, because I heard from a lot of people, he's telling everybody, Freddie got me kicked out of Comedy Day. No, Miller. Last year, 2 years ago at Comedy Day, you lit up a cigarette 6 feet away from the fire marshal. And one of the ladies who helps run Comedy Day, who doesn't want her name used, walked up to you very politely and said, could you please put the cigarette out? The fire marshal is 6 feet away from you. We'll lose our license. There's no smoking here, And Miller went off on her, called her a bitch and said, I'll do what I want, bitch. I'm, blah, blah, blah. And this woman has no reason to lie either. She's been helping Debbie and Comedy Day for years.
Well, I was there.
Went off on her.
I was there when he went off on Debbie in front of a room full of people at a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Called her names that I can't even say I can say. Because there's no rules that I couldn't. I don't use that. I wouldn't use the word privately.
Well, let me just say this. I'm not going to look Mr. Miller up. Okay? I'm not like that. But if I ever run into him, we're going to have a talk. We're going to have a very man-to-man talk. because he crossed the line, calling Debbie that name. He crossed the line dealing with my friend at Comedy Day, and then he really crossed the line with Bruno. So, yeah, I mean, like I told another friend of mine, I'll see how he likes being treated the way he treats people. And that's it. That's Miller. And I just but hey, I did learn how to do podcasts.
If anybody out there is considering doing podcast radio, don't go to FCC-free radio.
Not worth
because
it.
It isn't
it's
free,
not worth it.
And it isn't the money that you pay that makes it not free.
Yeah. It's all his ego. And, another thing, he always brags about how he has close ties with a certain motorcycle gang. Well, I let it be known that my mom and dad were married while they were in that certain motorcycle gang. And God bless both my mom and dad. They're both passed. But my godfather was a vested member in said motorcycle gang to the day he died. And, once I told him that, he never talked about that in front of me because he was out and out bragging about it one time, and I just let it be known, hey, my father was a card-carrying member till the day he passed. Shut up, He didn't like that.
Enough of that.
Yeah. But,
all right, so that's your John Miller story.
That's why I'm sticking to it.
Tell us how much. I know, but you tell the audience how much you love working for the Giants. And
let me tell you something. It's the worst paying job.
You've been a fan of the Giants.
It's the worst paying job I've had since I ran the zoo. And that's the God's truth. That is the truth. It's like $13.10 an hour, and after taxes it comes down to $9. After muni back and forth, it goes down to $7. So I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love seeing people enjoy themselves. And you know what? The Giants, the bastards that they are, know this. They know their product of selling you to work for them. One of the joys is seeing people enjoy themselves. And I've made a lot of new friends and talked to some long-standing employees there, and they both readily agreed with me that, they bank on you loving it here, and that's why they don't pay a lot. But it's so fun. I mean, you're a baseball person. To be able to watch a major league team take infield day in and day out and day in and day out is amazing. It's
absolutely.
Just the sound of the bat, the sound of the ball hitting the mitt. One of the pleasures, believe it or not, is watching Madison Baumgartner run around the outfield and the outline of the stadium spitting every 20 feet. It's Major League Baseball at its best. Seeing batting practice, watching the coaches hit fungos. I'm there every game I work 4 hours before the first pitch, and I don't have to be there until 2 hours. So those 2 hours, Ralph, are just amazing.
Recreational time. Yeah.
I just can't tell you. Well, you'll understand without me even telling you what it's like to be around Major League Baseball, being around professional athletes that take it seriously. The only player I really talked to was Jake Peavy. He called me the old man because, I'd throw the ball back at him really hard if it went into the stands during batting practice,
Right.
And I'm going to miss him a lot. He was so personable and just a great guy. But, geez, the Giants, they actually, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they go further into the playoffs than the Dodgers?
No.
Because they played the Cubs.
They beat the Mets.
Right.
To the Cubs.
But then the Dodgers got eliminated before the Giants did, didn't they?
That's possible. I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they played the Cubs and the Cubs beat them.
Yeah.
But maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But still,
I think that was it. The Cubs beat the Giants, and the Giants beat
the Cubs beat the Dodgers. On. Right. So there goes that answer. But it's a joy. To answer your question, it's a joy.
So it wasn't the Giant year.
No. Well, it was because they're too goddamn cheap to get a reliever during the trading deadline. They could have gotten the guy they signed, but you know what? It is what it is.
As Tim Haller said, what broke the Giants' back was basically trading Duffy, and
really?
Duffy meant more to them. Duffy meant more to them in the clubhouse than people knew. That you don't go just trading a guy who went through the minors with all these guys and went to war with them for $300 a month, riding a bus, and then come up to the major, that kind of thing.
Well, you're going to have to educate me a little bit more, because I have to, for the first time being a guest on your show, I have to disagree totally, because the guy we got, the pitcher we got more, is just going to get better and better. You'll see this next season. He's going to win 15, 16 games for sure. He's an amazing pitcher, Ralph. And I watched him 3 or 4 times. In other words, every time he pitched for the Giants, I worked at AT&T when he pitched for us. I think it was 2 times, not 4. I think it was 2 times I saw him pitch, and then once on TV on an away game. I think he's worth more than Duffy. But then again,
well, again, you might say that. First of all, I would always go, if I were a GM, and if it were a question of a good position player and a good pitcher, I'd take the good position player.
Really? Even if he's lefty?
Long run. How many pitches work out in the long run?
Well, this kid's good, though, Ralph. I mean, I hear you.
Well, Duffy is too. Duffy is very, very solid, and again, it goes beyond statistics of what this, it's the intangibles. I'm learning more and more from talking to guys who have played and coach and what have you. There's more to it. It's the little things that keep a team together, that the spirit of a team. Remember, it's like motivating a group, keeping a group of, you're a CEO of a group of employees. That's how it is for management. And
yes,
players aren't robots.
Cohesiveness I agree. I agree with that part, but I'm still going to say I'd rather have the lefty that he is in our rotation with Cueto and then Baumgartner. I mean, it's you'll see,
Okay.
Although, do you think they would have traded Duffy if Duffy wasn't hurt? Because remember, he had the Achilles injury.
Yeah, but do you think Cleveland would have taken him, or Tampa Bay would have taken him if they knew he wasn't going to be all right?
Well, I let me add this to it that makes you sound even better. After the trade, working at the stadium, there wasn't too many happy people.
No,
there wasn't. There really wasn't. Until
This
more.
was the first trade made by Bobby Evans, who basically is the general manager.
Right. Even though Sabian is, but Evans is the one that's doing the stuff. Yes.
No. Officially, Sabian has been kicked upstairs, and Bobby Evans is the general manager. And this was his trade, and it took a long time for Moore to put up any kind of decent stats.
Mm-hmm. It did. He was shell shocked.
Yeah.
And also the fans didn't take to him at first either, Ralph. At the home park.
For that reason.
No, they didn't.
For that reason.
Right.
I think management looks at teams nowadays almost as roto league teams, fantasy league.
I agree. It's different. It's different from when you were growing up, and I was growing up, and we hit adulthood. Each of us in different generations.
Trade Cap Anson. That was always the big debate.
And
all right, Freddie.
Well, before we sign off,
you know how much fun it is just to talk with you, just to talk about the old zoo days, and to hang with you on the phone is a pleasure. I want to tell you that.
I appreciate it. I know we're up against the clock here, but let me just add, though, believe me, once you see Baumgartner and Cueto, Moore is also going to light him up because he's going to be healthy. He wasn't 100% healthy this year. So, and hopefully Duffy gets back on the field. I mean, like you said, I totally agree. Clubhouse, he's a great guy. I hope he gets 25 homers and 100 RBIs on Tampa Bay and, proves his worth. But, Giants are going to do good next year.
You got your man. If you're happy with him, so
God,
be it.
yes. God, yes. Chapman has too many off-field crap stuff to deal with, and I'd rather see a pitcher that pitches with moxie than a fastballer any day, because that fastball could leave any time, as you know.
And it's the movement on the ball and the deception and which pitch is going to be thrown and the difference between your fastball and your changeup.
Mm-hmm.
I
appreciate being on the show. Let me tell people out there that my show's name is Derfcast, all capital letters, DERFCAST, and I'm a comfortably happy member of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network.
Wow.
And I appreciate it.
It makes me feel good that you are, Freddie.
And I could be heard on SoundCloud.
All-time favorite people.
God bless you. I appreciate that. And you stuck by me. And there'll be more podcasts coming soon. And we got to get together soon, too, Ralph. I mean,
Absolutely.
Last time I saw you, I was with my friend Bob of Bob's Radio Cafeteria, and we ran into you and your nice lady at the bookstore.
That was fun, and that was absolutely unbelievable. That
by
right
chance,
after
Jesus.
we formed the network, we're walking around. It was the day I got Peter Golenbach to agree to do a weekly show, and I'm browsing around, and I look in the sports section. There's Peter Golenbach's book.
Unreal.
And I look around, and there's Freddie and Bob.
That was a day. That brightened my day up because, I must have brought in about 13 to 16 boxes of books, thinking I was going to walk out with $200. I only got $25.
Taking the books to the bookstore.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
I've done that dance over the course of a lifetime. I've rebuilt more book collections than anybody in the history of books. Now it's so easy to do, though. Amazon, dirt cheap.
Change, Ralph.
I'm filling up my library. And finding out what's out there. The book industry is very funny, and I don't mean in a hilarious way. We could be on the West Coast and not even know before the internet that books were even available. They were even in print.
Right. Now, you just go online. It has its high points and it has its low points, the internet,
Right. Well, let me say this. Just we were talking about the network itself. Peter Golenbach and David Nemec, another sports author, two of the most prolific baseball authors in history. Mm-hmm. David Nemec wrote a ton of books. Peter Golenbach's a ton of books. They both have regular podcasts on my network.
Oh, that's great.
And
congratulations.
Fred Lazarus, who knows more about professional wrestling than any human being I've ever met. I have to listen to these shows, Fred, just to post them.
I appreciate that. Well,
at first I thought, my God, I'm going to have to listen to wrestling. But you know what? I've learned so much, and I have so much of a respect. Sure, they know what's going to happen, this, that, and the other thing. Wow, what a show they put on.
It's amazing. That's why I love it.
It's athletes.
And there's a few people that know more than me out there.
with moves and direction and what have you, and personalities. People like, rest his soul, Roddy Piper.
My
they
hero.
affect
God
people's lives.
Saved my life.
Yours in particular. Tell me something about Roddy, and from every one of your guests, I hear, oh, wow, he was this, he was that, and the other thing.
You know, you never hear anything bad about him from anybody except what
he's like
people were jealous of him. Yes. You know what? that is a damn good analogy. Musial and Roddy were the same off stage, very gracious. Roddy, from even when he was before WWF, you know, he came up in the NWA, and he was a huge bad guy. He still would take time out to give fans autographs when they ran into him or run into him, talk to kids, and that carried over into the WWF when McMahon signed him. Roddy was just a game changer, you know. He made other wrestlers better. He was one of the few that could do that, and was just a superhuman being. From what all the information and talking to people that were close to him. I mean, I'm blessed to talk to his daughter every once in a while on Facebook, and his wife on Facebook only. I do talk to one of his managers a lot, Noel Kim, and from what everybody has said, every guest I've had, every wrestler I've talked to, every fan I've talked to, you never hear anything bad about him, you know. And
right.
He's missed, and he's changed a lot of lives, you know. And he's the reason why I'm into wrestling, you know. I mean, when I'm up against it, you know, health-wise or whatever, I always think, what would Roddy do, you know? WWRD, just like his T-shirt, what would Roddy do? And it's gotten me through a lot. I'm not ashamed to admit it, you know.
You know,
I actually had one girlfriend about...
But that's the first time I ever heard what those letters mean.
I don't tell anybody unless they ask, brother. It's true. It's so true. I don't tell anybody, but I'll end it about Roddy by saying I had a girlfriend about 25 years ago, and well, geez, that makes me look real good, doesn't it? No, but she said, well, it's either wrestling and Roddy Piper or me, and I was single for 3 more years after that.
Well,
decision was the easiest decision I've ever made, man.
And that woman turned out to be Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Oh, my God. Well, speaking of wrestling and politics, old Trump appointed Vince McMahon's wife, Linda McMahon, to the head of the Small Business Commission. Read it. Read online. Unreal.
That's very interesting.
After she wasted, $27 million on 2 bad campaigns to be a senator?
Wow.
They donated $6 million to him, too, the McMahons. Oh, it's just, Ralph, it's scary times. He hires somebody, or he appoints somebody to be the head of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, who's suing the Environmental Protection Agency. You can't make shit up like this, Ralph. You can't.
No, you can't hire someone who doesn't believe in global warming and not have you looked at as a schmuck.
Well, you know, Ralph, before I go, let me ask you, you're wise. You've been around a little bit longer than me.
No, I've been around.
Well, let me just ask you this with all sincerity. Do you really think he's going to last 4 years?
He has to, because Pence is the vice president. And
Pence is the devil, brother.
Insurance policy. He's to the right of Attila the Hun, is Pence. And there are some things about Trump that you could almost say, well, this could work out a little bit. He's much stronger than any of the candidates on Israel. You're a Jew, I'm a Jew.
Right.
That way. He's not going to let Iran develop nuclear weapons.
Well, that's good at least. That's the only good thing.
Okay, he's going to bring... Now, maybe I'm Pollyanna because I know as much about international trade, and he could fuck it up already, pissing China off. We could have a nuclear war tomorrow.
Yeah, he's already pissed China off by talking to Taiwan, which eliminates all the goodwill that's been made since Nixon.
Right.
it's scary times. That's all I can say.
Oh, it's scary time. Every different level. Women's rights. If there's a woman out there and you voted for Trump, why don't you stick your head in the oven?
Why don't you? You know, and you know, I know you might disagree with me on this, and I profusely mean this with all respect. I blame Bernie Sanders a lot for not going on TV a month before the election saying, we lost.
See,
take my vote and vote for Hillary because we don't want Trump.
You have to remember the timing when they screwed him out of the primaries.
Yes, they did. Now, I admit that.
It hadn't yet come to light that they screwed him out of the primaries, and Trump was saying things that were so outrageous about the wall, about immigration, about this, that, and the other. He was scaring the crap out of everybody. Bernie, at that point, said, hey, better Hillary than this guy by 1,000%.
Why did he have a commercial, though, Ralph? Why did he go on TV and say...
Turns out it wasn't better than Hillary. Turns out that Hillary, by conspiring with Debbie Wasserman Schultz to fix the primaries, turns out to be just as bad as Trump. I don't think. Pardon?
I'm so scared of Trump. I'd have my cat as president before Trump.
See, I'm more scared of the things that Hillary has done than the things that Trump has said. Now, that being said, I used to say that same expression before the election, and it made sense. At this point, it is starting to scare me that in 40 days, this guy's going to take office, 40, 50 days.
Ralph, maybe the Electoral College won't put him in. Who knows? Anything can happen.
The Electoral College, maybe they won't. Maybe they won't.
Let's pray.
So then what happens if they don't put him in?
I don't want to know. I'm scared for everything. Look, straight up, I didn't like voting for Hillary. I didn't like voting for Trump.
You didn't have to vote for Hillary because you could have voted for Jill Stein. I tried to tell you this. You're in California. He was going to lose in California if you voted for him or if you didn't. And by voting for Jill Stein would have been better because it was for me because you don't feel like you had to go and pull the lever and have bile come up in your throat.
Let me tell you my voting thing.
She gets on it, and as it turns out, she's coming up big with trying to
do the recount,
challenge the recount, and all that stuff.
Right. Well, I was going to vote for Roddy Piper, and I was talking to I won't say who, one of his family members, and I said, I'm going to vote for Roddy, and she said, please don't waste your vote. I appreciate it. I know you love him, but don't waste your vote. So I ended up voting for Hillary because I was so scared of Trump. I watched every single debate.
You had to know he wasn't going to win in California. It gave me
I
and
knew
others
that.
an out.
I knew that, and I was so disgusted with the debates. I mean, I watched every single presidential debate, every single second, and I was appalled by him. You saw my Facebook post.
Of course.
I look at it this way. I look at it this way. We survived, 16 years of Bushes? We'll survive 4 years of Trump. That's how I'm looking at it. We did survive.
Hopefully, that's all we'll have to. And let's put a special shout out to Ruth Ginsburg's doctors.
Oh, God, please.
Her alive.
Please, Ruth.
Another 4 years.
If anything's going to make her stay alive, it's this. She's going to be doing jumping jacks every morning, night before going to bed, and she's going to do some marathon. She's going to start
They're going to keep her ass in a bubble just to be
She's going to start getting laid. She's going to do everything she can to stay alive, this woman.
Thanks for the visualization on that
about
one. I
Ruth
really
Ginsburg
didn't
getting
need that.
laid.
But,
oh, my God.
Oh, my
Does that show you how scared I am? I'm talking about Ruth Ginsburg sex, okay? Does that show you? Oh, God. Ralph, I love you.
Again, what a way to sign off. But I will end it the way I do most of my podcast segments. I will implore you, Fred, and those out there listening, to keep your dreams wet, keep your humor dry, keep your children and grandchildren out of recruiting stations. Military recruiting stations are bad. They are toxic. The military will change you in a bad way. And this is optional, of course, because a lot of people are going to go, oh, I can't do this. That wouldn't be right. Keep your children off the laps of clerics that wear dresses.
Oh, my God, I totally agree.
A lot of them frolic. And whatever it is, it ain't right. So, just to be on the safe side, you can do all four. You can do none of the above. It doesn't matter to me. But do keep on keeping on. Adios, Fred. We'll talk again, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it. God bless you, man, and stay healthy, Ralph, please. The world needs you. I need you.
Oh, yes. I've never heard it expressed quite that way, except by my grandmother.
I joined the list as a wise lady. The world needs you, Ralph. I need you. You're one of the few that understand me, man, and I love being on your show.
I love you too, Freddie boy. Stay well.
You take care.
Adios, everybody. Over and out.